It is my pleasure to introduce the moderator for our next panel, Women of Color, the Biggest Opportunity for Success in Tech. Digital strategist and storyteller Lynne Johnson will lead a panel of experts gathered to address the challenges of succeeding in the tech industry as a woman of color. Lynne is best known for her visionary work leading cross-functional teams to develop cutting-edge content and community platforms for top media brands like Vibe, Spin, and Fast Company. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lynne Johnson.
Hi, thank you, Derek, and thank you, Black Enterprise, for your invitation and certainly for presenting this well-needed summit for us and by us. I'm excited about delving into our discussion, so I'll quickly introduce our panelists, exceptional women of color from the tech world and science, and we'll get started. Our first panelist is Dr. Hadiyah-Nicole Green. She's a medical physicist who works on the cutting edge of cancer research. Dr. Green is the founder of the Ora Lee Smith Cancer Research Foundation. She has pioneered a new nanoparticle-enabled laser treatment to target cancerous cells, along with a 3-in-1 system for detecting, targeting, and treating malignant tumors. She describes the treatment as a platform technology applicable to multiple cancer types. Please welcome Dr. Hadiyah-Nicole Green. Next, we have Aisha Bowe. She is the co-founder and CEO of STEMBoard, a technology solutions company founded in 2013 that is committed to closing the achievement gap by empowering historically underrepresented youth from K through college, including collaborating with HBCUs to build transformational technologies. At only 29 years old, Aisha, an aerospace engineer, manages STEMBoard's multi-million defense contracts and private sector clients. Welcome, Aisha Bowe. And rounding out our panel is Marlenes Saintil, Head of Operations for the Product and Technology Group at Intuit. As an operations and technology leader, Merline articulates strategies for growth that empower Fortune 500 and private companies to efficiently scale their business. In her executive role, she builds high-performing teams that accelerate an organization's technological relevance. Merline's broad leadership experience in the fast-growing sectors of cloud computing, mobile, online payments, and e-commerce distinguishes her as a trusted advisor and executive in this age of digital disruption and transformation. Welcome, Marlenes Saintil. Would you like? Yes, right there.
Give me a glass of bubble. Give me a bottle of water.
Yes.
Okay, ladies, let's begin.
Okay.
I'm a fan of comic books and animation, so I'm really into superheroes, and today you are my superheroes. And everybody who's into superheroes and comic books loves a good origin story.
Yes.
So I'd like you guys to share your origin story, particularly from the perspective of when you knew, in your case, you wanted to be a scientist, and what steps you took to get there.
Okay. Very good question. So first, let me say I'm excited about being here. Thank you for having us. And second, I'd say when I was a little girl, I was always the one who had to untangle the jewelry. And I would solve the puzzles and highlights, and I would time myself, and my brother would challenge me to see if I can do it faster, and how quickly could I go through my highlights. So I was always the problem solver, right? That was my story. And when I was in kindergarten, my brother was in 4th grade. His name is Nathan, and he used to have me do his math homework.
In kindergarten?
I was in kindergarten doing his 4th grade homework. He ended up repeating the 4th grade, and then I became the first in the family to go to college and get a PhD in physics. You know, it's funny how those things happen. And then the next part, I changed my major 3 times when I started my freshman year at Alabama A&M University. Go HBCUs, go Bulldogs. And I went from computer science to electrical engineering to math, and then someone challenged me that if I could master calculus as a freshman, that I could major in physics. And I finished with a 4.0 in physics, and I came into cancer research when my aunt, who raised me from age 4, the same one who used to have me untangle her jewelry, she announced that she had cancer and didn't want to experience the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation. And so then I shifted my focus and my background in lasers and optics to develop a treatment for cancer that didn't have the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation.
Awesome, awesome. Aisha, can you tell us about that moment that you decided you wanted to be an engineer?
Well, Lynn, I was a late starter. My high school guidance counselor advised me that I should become a cosmetologist because I was not a strong student in high school. And it wasn't until I was in community college and I received an A in a pre-algebra class. And my dad bribed me to take another one. Did I accidentally discover that I might have some intellectual aptitude? And so I started my aerospace engineering degree at a community college. And that small accomplishment turned into another, which turned into another. And I thought, well, what if I threw out everything that anyone had ever told me about myself? And so I created this list. And I started with the most ambitious things I could think of. I wanted to go to the University of Michigan. I wanted to become an engineer. And I didn't quite know what type, because at this time I was about 18. Well, when I thought about the engineering majors, of which there was nuclear and electrical and aerospace, I always loved science fiction and the thought of pushing the boundary. And that's what I chose. And so next thing you know, I'm studying aerospace engineering at the University of Michigan. And the last thing on my list was to work for NASA, because every aerospace engineer dreams of working for NASA. And I spent 6 years working as an aerospace engineer for NASA on small spacecraft and building flight trajectory optimization algorithms, which outside of NASA doesn't really resonate in bar conversations. But that's how I got started. And so I'm an advocate for never allowing others to define what success looks like for you and never being afraid to just get started.
Awesome. Okay. Marlene, same for you, engineer.
Yeah, so my story is one I would say is an improbable one. I came to the US at the age of 5 from Haiti, the oldest of 5, and spoke only Creole and French and would be ridiculed in school, but would then stumble upon my love of math and would plow through my studies, eventually graduating valedictorian in my class, and then going to study math at Florida A&M. But then stumbled upon computer science, which is why I'm so passionate about making sure women in tech and also underrepresented groups have access to computer science, because I know for me, in a generation, I have changed the trajectory of my career, my family, because of technology. I feel lucky enough to have moved to the Bay Area 16 years ago, live right downtown Palo Alto, which I can tell you is, it's a rarity to find people of color, but it is the possibility with technology that you can, in less than a generation, really create something out of nothing. And what I tell people is, don't let where you start define where you end. Continue to innovate yourself. Stay curious, stay hungry, and always be looking for what's emerging. And so I'd love to talk a little bit more about that, but that's just my transformation journey.
Okay, all right, thank you, ladies. So the hero's journey is rife with trials and tribulations, right? And so I'd like you ladies to talk a little bit about your trials and tribulations, but then I also want to specifically get at a few things. Like for you, Hadiyah, you're now building an R&D company, right? And I mean, I want you to talk about some of that journey and what the trials and challenges look like in terms of not going for profit and going nonprofit.
Okay, good question. So for me, my work became a ministry, and my journey has been more spiritual than academic. And I had to take the pain and suffering that I saw with my family and other people who had cancer and funnel that into something productive so that I wouldn't go through a depression and woe is me and have a pity party, but I could channel that passion and that pain into something that could solve a problem. I really wanted to be the difference and the change that I wanted to see in the world. And so hearing motivational speeches over the years made a difference for me. And thanks to some of the trailblazers who paved the way, I can stand on those shoulders and say, I see examples of people who look like me, and I can do something to make a difference. And thank you. And so there was a lot of discussion about me doing a for-profit business and pharmaceutical companies and other individuals wanting to invest and get equity and then be able to manage and control. But it was my vision, and I felt a responsibility to be a steward over this gift. And if it's my assignment to bring this forth on the planet, I want it to be affordable to everyday people at the end of the journey. And I wanted to have control over my vision. And so I decided to do the nonprofit route and go after some of the grant funding and some of the nonprofit charitable donations that people make for cancer, because it's not something that just affected me, it affected so many of us. And I think that because it's a humanitarian cause, and I'm not in it for the money, but to reduce suffering on the planet and to literally change the way cancer is treated, it was important to me to keep the heart of my mission nonprofit instead of for-profit.
That's awesome. Did anyone ever make you feel like you wouldn't be able to, that you would not be the one to be able to helm this?
Yeah, I've been told because I'm so early in my career, that because I didn't incorporate a drug in my therapy, that I'm using lasers and nanotechnology, that because it didn't incorporate a drug, that the pharmaceutical industry would squash it. When some of the media coverage went out, especially the interview I did with Roland Martin, in the comment sections, people were talking about, oh, they're gonna kill her before she gets her treatment out. And it's been all this controversy. And I'm like, I'm a physicist. I know for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. But I can't focus on those distractions. I have to stay focused on my assignment.
Yes.
And
I want to go more into some of those challenges, but let me get to the other ladies. Aisha, for you, I know there was probably an opportunity to start your company through going the Silicon Valley VC route, but we know Black women get funded at what, like 0.2% or something like that?
Right.
Right? So you decided to go after government contracts instead. Can you talk a little bit about why that happened that way?
Yeah, we pivoted. And Black women, Black people are resilient, right? We always find a way where there is none. We went out to the Valley, the VCs weren't feeling us. And as an engineer in the government, I had had opportunity to work on some programs where we approved bids that were somewhat analogous to a pitch, right? And I said, well, why do I not look at government as a source of capital for our business? I mean, the government actually has programs that are incentivized to help minorities and women. And we started bidding on these contracts and winning. And so now we're sustainable, we're profitable. The entire business runs off the profit that we make. I have no outside investment, and I'm able to use a portion of that profit and invest it in ways that are meaningful to myself in both the commercial, government, and nonprofit space.
That's awesome.
Powerful.
Yeah. Merline, you've been a tech insider. You've worked at Yahoo, I think PayPal, Adobe, and now you're at Intuit, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's so, and you're an executive. I mean, that is so unheard of for a Black woman in tech. Can you just talk about what that journey was like for you and what Black women need to do to excel to such heights?
Yeah, absolutely. I moved here working for Sun Microsystems, which, by the way, is now Facebook. And what that tells you is if you don't reinvent yourself, you'll eventually die. And so I think that's a philosophy that I take on for my career as well, which is continue to innovate. So going from engineer and deciding that I wanted to pivot, I would do 2 major pivots in my life. I was at Sun for about 6 years. It was within that time that I loved building things, but love building it with people. And so I decided to move to a technical program management role. I would eventually get my master's at CMU, Carnegie Mellon, as well, to just really tell people that I was really serious about it. And it wasn't until I left to go to Adobe, hone my craft, and would do my first next pivot, which is to an operations role reporting to the CTO of PayPal, that would transform, I think, the trajectory of my career. And what I mean by that is, in the Valley, it is table stakes to be excellent. You being excellent is everyone else being excellent. What I tell people, the difference and what I saw a change in trajectory of my career is when I understood the power of building relationships and nurturing your network. You need to have many, many people in your network to be able to accelerate. This is getting mentors, getting sponsors, getting different people to invest in you so that when opportunities come, those pivots didn't happen just by itself. It was people saying, oh, I worked with you at Sun. Hey, someone's looking for a leader to report to the CTO. I will vouch for you. I will make that happen for you. And that has been what has set my career to the next level and every single step since then.
That's awesome. But from out of those experiences, if you had to give like 2 or 3 tips specifically beyond mentors and sponsors, what would some of those tips be? So
one of the things I always tell folks is that understand that failure is part of the learning process. I need each and every one of you to be resilient. I don't care if everything has been going great for you, something will eventually not go well. So do dust yourself and pick yourself back up and keep moving. So being resilient is the one thing that I constantly tell folks. Certainly making sure you have a varied personal board of advisors. This is just people in your network to help you. And then the other thing is just making sure you ask for what you want. You may not get it, but you have planted a seed, right? Because the next time, for example, I'm looking to get on a board, and I will tell you, it's unless you're actually a CEO, it's quite hard to get your first board position. But one of the best advice is telling someone. And I can tell you, I just recently got a call because a friend of mine who's on a couple of prominent boards suggested that they reach out to me. So it's really just uttering your truth, telling people what you want, and just keep plowing through. And I tell you, things will happen. But it is about just always asking for what you want and not waiting for people to think, oh, I'm smart, I'm working hard, and things are just going to happen for you. It's about being aggressive about what you want.
Right. And I mean, I don't mean to keep picking on you here, but it's just that, I mean, when people look at these numbers from these companies like Google and Facebook, like over the past 2 years, those numbers for women and for people of color have not grown much, right?
Yeah, they're quite dismal.
Right, very dismal. And the things we keep hearing about are unconscious bias and then how culture fit work against us, right? So how do we combat those things?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate enough that I was asked to speak to a group of 20 Black engineers, and they've grown 5x since I spoke to them in the fall, and they had their very first conference called Dev Color last week, and I spoke at Facebook. And what I told them is, you know, one of the common things is that people spend a lot of energy thinking about they're the only person here that looks like them. And I will be the first to tell you, I don't let anyone tell me or give them that power to tell me where I belong and where I don't belong. So I am often one of only either woman or a person of color, and then I combine those two, it's fun, that is in a room. And so for me, it's just not giving into that, you know, 15, 20% of my energy to be thinking about that, and more about what am I going to create? What am I going to do? How am I going to scale this? So focusing on that will be helpful. But just understanding just because it's this way now doesn't mean it will stay that way. There are a lot of things that are happening in the Valley that I'm encouraging for, especially women in computer science. Some colleges are doing extremely well. The numbers are dismal nationally. But Harvey Mudd has gone from 10% to 40% computer science. Carnegie Mellon, up 40%. I think Stanford and MIT, there are some major schools that are graduating pretty high numbers for computer science and is staying in the game long enough to make sure the pipeline catches up.
You know,
Aisha?
Yeah, because so pattern matching is real, right? And with us, we went out and we were asking people who could not necessarily understand the journey that we were on. And I think it's important that we think about the representation and we go out and we aspire to fill these positions so that when we're in the position to write the checks, we can make different decisions. Yes. But that starts with every one of us empowering ourselves to do so. Do not be afraid to be the only person in the room. And once you're in that room, make a different choice. Mm-hmm. And so I know with the company, I've gone out and I've invested in other businesses, and I encourage everyone else to do the same. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if you guys have heard that 500 Startups, it's a prominent VC. So I decided to become a limited partner where they were raising $25 million for people of color, Latinos and Black folks. And the reason to do that is because you have to be in the game to change the game.
Right,
And
exactly.
so my first, investment outside of that was for a woman of color. So we have to figure out how we change it at all levels, right? Be the investor that gives someone a chance.
And don't be afraid to make money. Right. There's nothing wrong with being profitable. And doing it and being agile. When I said we went to government contracts, people were like, oh, okay, well, are you guys going to be a nonprofit? No, we are a for-profit. We are for-profit with a social impact mission. And because of that, as a woman, I was able to go out and get a woman-owned small business certification, which I then leveraged to bring revenue into my company and partner with large companies who make my business better on the daily. And all of that is available to every single woman in this room if they seek it. So do not be afraid to go out, as she said, ask for what you deserve, and be the boss. Yes.
Okay, all right. Hadiyah, in the science field, can you talk a little bit about what the challenges have been? As you talked a little bit about people thinking you're too young or too early in your career, but can you talk a little bit about the challenges of being Black or a person of color in your career? A challenge you may have had and how you overcame it.
Yeah, and I get this question almost every time I do an interview. And I always say, I don't wake up in the morning and put on Black Woman and go into the lab. Like, it's one of those things where I guess for me it's just a comfort that we as Black women have been innovators. We make a way out of no way, right. That we create something and we'll engineer something that's been broken to make sure that it works as long as we need it to work, or so that we can revitalize it. And there have been times where I've been the only person of color or only woman in the classroom. And there was a time where I had a classmate claim that he was smarter than everybody else because he was the only one making A's in this particular class. And I said, before you leave this room, go to the board and explain to me how you did that problem, because you were the only one who got it right on the test. And he started stuttering, and I said, I'm not letting you leave this room until you explain it. And he broke down and admitted that he cheated. And from that, I realized you are not smarter than me just because you say so. And just having the challenges of some of my classmates say to me that because I had full scholarships from undergrad and grad school that I got it because I was a Black woman. And I say, no, I got it because I had a 4.0. So respect that, right? Right. And I'm a Black woman.
Right. Aisha, what's like a challenge that you had to overcome facing, being a co-founder of a tech startup?
Wow, we gotta just pick one, huh? Right? As was alluded to, you always get that it's because you're Black or because you're female, and very often I too am the only African American woman who owns her company in the room, right? And what I stopped doing was looking at it as a disadvantage and starting viewing all of my background as an advantage, right? Like my culture is my power. Yes. We know that African American culture drives America and it drives the world. And I also, I know what it's like to be hungry, right? I know what it's like not to have. And when I'm in those situations, I can't help but rise to the best because I'm like, you can't outwork me. You can't have been through what I went through when I didn't have any resources and tried to and finish an aerospace engineering degree and did 2. So all of that I bring into my meetings every day. And I make sure that when I leave that I am not only a reflection of all of those experiences, but I kind of cause them to think a little bit differently about what they know to be true about African American women.
Awesome, awesome. Marlene, is there a time that you faced overt racism that you can tell us about and how you dealt with it?
I mean, I think it's almost like because of this is your body, you're just constantly walking around where people will question, oh, you live there? I'm like, yeah, and I don't know what to say about that, except, you know, I'm fortunate enough to live in a pretty great neighborhood, but it is funny to, you know, be with my mom who a year and a half ago moved with us and became our grand nanny. She retired early from Florida. And so this Haitian woman walks around downtown Palo Alto like she owns the place, right? And so I think it's like she's in CVS and Walgreens and I should buy stock in those companies. She's in there every day. And so what I say to that is it's around you, but you can't let it consume you.
Right.
I have very wonderful neighbors who would do anything for me. So I look at it as I can't change that I'm a Black woman who comes out of my door every day. How people react to me, that's their business. I'm trying to get mine, and so that's what I focus on. And so I would say yes to the racism exists, and we all know that, but you just can't let that be the thing that you give power to people to control how you're thinking and what you do, where do you go, what you don't do. That has been freeing for me, because I do think if you look at the statistics, it's easy to just say, how is that possible, right? How is a poor girl from Haiti here today? With nothing, right? And so I think it's owning your story, making sure you get people invested in you and sponsors. And the other thing is, once you get there, reach out back for somebody.
Right.
I think it's, you know, I have pound pay it forward because it's really important that I understand that I'm here because a lot of people invested in me. Yes, I worked hard, and you know it's a great thing, but a lot of things that have come my way is because I feel like someone took the time to invest in me, and I really encourage you guys, even if it's having coffee with someone to just help them through will mean something meaningful, and that's why I do a lot of these sessions for women and people of color.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, about mentors, sponsors, allies, and also the side of giving back. So for you and your career, have you had mentors and sponsors? How have they helped you? And then also if you can touch on how you're now giving back.
So I'll start with the how I've been giving back. So even when I was in undergrad, I organized the organizations at Alabama A&M for us to infiltrate the community that got labeled as disadvantaged around our historically Black college. And we went out in the community and we started volunteering. And we went into the schools and the senior citizens' homes so that we can not just be the academic institution, but be part of the solution to help empower the community. So that's something that I've been doing for years now. And even in grad school, I would go and volunteer with the other undergrad organizations, with the Black Student Awareness Committee at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and as a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, just being involved in the community. That's part of our mission, and so that's something that's been instilled in me since I was in high school and I was adulting. That's something that I've been doing, and so I've been fortunate to have mentors who have become play mamas and mother figures. I call them my tribal council. And it's like the personal board of advisor with my spin on it. And I've had professional mentors who don't look like us. And they have been instrumental in some of the grant funding and the awards that I've received because they write letters of recommendation. But I haven't had any business or nonprofit mentors or sponsors say, here, let me endorse you or sponsor you and introduce you to people to support you. And it's funny that you ask, because I've been all over the news saying, hey, I've developed this treatment for cancer. It's working in mice better than anything that's currently on the market. What more do I need to do to get funding?
One thing I would say, though, because I often have to tell people this, is you don't walk up to people and ask them to be your mentor or sponsor. It really takes
the relationship.
A mutually beneficial relationship where someone will want to invest in you, right? And so that's Sheryl Sandberg was awesome in Lynne in saying just that, which is walking up to people, especially, I can tell you the number of places I go to speak. It's, you want to help, but I think you just have to wait for that relationship to develop over time before making that out. So that's the one advice I usually give people.
And that's good advice. But part of it, like, I've been in the lab the last 11 years, being one of only, right? And so it's a process of coming out to things like this to give back, but also to say, I am in that space where I do need the support of everybody who's willing to reach out and help a sister.
Right. Are you starting a crowdfunding?
So I started my nonprofit, and I have 501c3 status from the IRS, and I thought that would be a better way so people can get tax write-offs instead of the crowdfunding. But I do have my website, physics2cancer.org, and
physics2cancer.org. Everybody got that, right? Okay.
And that's the place where you can go, and everything funnels through the nonprofit. But I also have a GoFundMe page as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she has a GoFundMe page. You hear that, right? Okay. Aisha, can you talk a little bit about mentors, sponsors, allies, and as well as how your company is giving back? And then you've also personally given back throughout your career.
Yeah, for me, mentorship changed my life, right? From being in college and having a professor who thought that I could be an engineer when I didn't think I could be an engineer. I initially turned the job at NASA down because I didn't think I was good enough. And the person who hired me made it so that I had to take the job. It wasn't a question, it was a command. You were going to do this. And from that moment, I was very, I was just moved to say, I'm going to make it possible so that other people can have the same experience. And so I got active at NASA, bringing people in and working with organizations to make sure that other students would have the same opportunity. And from there, with STEMBoard, we run a full education directorate. But the focus is skills-based content, because we build products and services for large-scale government and private clients. And what I want people to understand is, what is it actually like to be an engineer? What do you need to know to be successful? And so we've started developing custom hardware that will be launched next year in 5 cities to support the STEM content that we make for our partners. In addition to that, I am not opposed to reverse mentorship. I mean, I have my 14-year-old cousin telling me how to take selfies, how to use Snapchat. Mentorship can come in all forms, both formal and informal. Don't be afraid to take constructive criticism, but also understand that at all points in time, you need to be unapologetically authentic and just you throughout whatever it is that you're doing, because that ultimately is what's going to make you successful.
Right, right. Marlene, for you, what has it been like in terms of mentors and sponsors? And I guess also, a big question is, do Black women help one another?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
So I sit on a couple of boards. One is called Watermark, and it's executive women who have reached the watermark. That's sort of how the name came about. And part of what I love about that organization is these are incredibly high-powered executives who get together and help one another. And what's important about that is, because I do get questions like that, is do we all help each other out? And I will say absolutely. In fact, I think the person who's on the cover of the magazine right outside is one of my personal friends, Shelly Archambault, and she has been instrumental in helping my career. And so, yes, and she's also on the board of Watermark as an additional comment. And I will say, so there's the boards I sit on, the boards that help with the pipeline. I also feel that one pivotal moment that a mentor helped me was when I was trying to decide, would I continue sort of the big company route, or did I needed to do something different to accelerate my career? And his advice was, you need to leave the big company unless you want to wait 10 years, and just go do a smaller company and, understand the risks and, be able to then scale that company and do the hockey stick. And that's what I did. I took that leap of faith and became a C-level executive reporting to the CEO for a company that competed with Amazon Web Services. So that's been one gentleman who took an interest in my career. And then through Code 2040, which is an organization that Tristan founded with Laura, and they've matched me with a mentee from Carnegie Mellon. She was a woman from, so she's robotics and computer science undergrad, just a brilliant junior. We kept meeting every, couple weeks. And because of her, I was like, man, there's some talented folks. People say they can't find black women. I'm like, are you kidding me? And so I was able to instrumentally bring that into our organization, and every single engineer we brought in was rated outstanding. And so my company now doubles down on Code 2040 because I was willing to just take a chance on my experience. So I think you can leverage, especially in corporate America, your own experiences. When people say you can't find people of this kind, I say you should just ask people who know people who look like them. Because I do think that's a way we can accelerate some of what we do.
Lynne, I have to hop on that question.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I look in the audience and I'm looking at some of my mentors, right? Like I'm looking at black women in the audience who I've hosted STEM camps with, who've made sure that I stayed at NASA for those 6 years. That's right. Because when we team, there's absolutely nothing that we can't do. And I think it's a myth that I want to dispel, because I'm a product of a tribe of smart black women who uplift and empower me on a daily basis.
Yes,
because
same here.
I get to sit on this stage and I get to evangelize about the company, but I'm a reflection of the team.
Yes.
And my lead engineer is a black woman, my director of communications is a black woman. Without them, I wouldn't be, and neither would be the company.
Okay, all right. We're winding down into almost the Q&A section. So I guess I want to just ask if you guys have any last remarks you'd like to present that maybe I didn't get to ask you.
Me first again?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be. You want me to go that way?
You can.
Okay, Marlene.
I would say it's really important to know what motivates you. In the Valley, reinventing yourself, whether you can figure out where the puck is going, will just keep you long enough to stay in the game. So stay curious and hungry, and really have a self-awareness about what your strengths and weaknesses are, and surround yourself with people who can help you get there. No one can create a company by themselves, and so I really encourage people not to try to do that, and to leverage just your resources in your ecosystem, and I would just say keep going forward.
Aisha?
If someone would have told me 10 years ago, right, that I would have graduated from college, I would have told them that I was crazy. If they would have told me 7 years ago that I would be an aerospace engineer for NASA, or start my own company, or be here at Black Enterprise on the stage talking with you, I would have thought that they were crazy, right? And so I just, for everyone in the audience, it's like, just don't be afraid to dream bigger. Push the boundary. Think about the most crazy things that you can think of, because at some point in time, someone thought Wi-Fi was just never going to happen, and iPhones was just never going to happen. And here we are talking about, African American women and blacks in general achieving, and that is going to happen, and it's going to happen quickly, and we're already doing it, right? So, don't be afraid. Always push the envelope. Never look at your culture, your background, any of that as a disadvantage. And dream bigger, right? Once you accomplish something, think about how do you do that times 2, right? Like, what's the exponent of that?
Right.
And what else can you bring to the table every day?
I love Shonda's, there was a quote in her Year of Yes of, I just work hard, but, things seem like they just happen. Like, there's all this pivots and stuff that happen for you. And so making it your Year of Yes. I think 2017 is for me, the Year of Yes.
Yeah. Right. And you have to toss that failure word out. It's just successive progress.
Right. Hadiyah?
Okay. So my thing is, how many people in here have already found their passion?
Hallelujah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Okay. And the reason why I asked that question is because I'm on a leap of faith. based on something that came out of my passion and my pain. And I want to ask you all to stand with me in my journey. And everybody in here has a cell phone. One of the speakers earlier did a survey, and I saw everybody in here pull out their cell phone. And I want to ask each of you to go to my website, the physics, the number 2 cancer, like right now, literally, like right now. Pull your phones out. Okay, physics2cancer.org. And I want you guys to each make your personal commitment to me in the form of a financial contribution that you can write off on your taxes. That's my ask of you.
Okay, so we have
Thank you.
a few minutes left for questions. I can take 3 questions. Okay, we have someone back there.
Hello. First, I want to thank you guys for being here. My the only black woman in a space, a large space.
What's the question? Can you?
My question is, how do you navigate the unconscious bias?
Navigate unconscious bias. Navigating unconscious bias.
My brother has this phrase where he tells me all the time to resonate above it. And I don't know if you guys understand the term resonate. Do you guys understand the term resonate? Okay, imagine he's a rapper. Resonate above it, like rise above it and operate and do all your business above that space. You cannot play into any unconscious bias, any negativity, and it's almost like you have to strategize 30,000 feet above where everybody else is operating and move your whole mission either above the radar or below the radar. But you can't be on the same plane and the same vibration with them trying to solve the problem when they are not your problem. They are a distraction. Label them as such and stay focused.
Okay, 2 more questions. We have a gentleman. Can we get a guy in here, right here? Right here.
And I was going to add one.
Oh,
quick
we have another
resource.
one over there. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Marlenes Jones, and I represent the Hip Hop Education Center in New York via San Francisco. I don't have a question, I actually have a comment. It's going to be very brief. I just wanted to reiterate, we will always have fear. There will always be fear, and I feel like it's past that. It's doing things anyway. I'm 8 years deep in the game in the tech industry in San Francisco, and I'm born and raised. And I just want to say thank you so much for these incredible women who have been able to sit up here and really, really showcase what it does take. But I just wanted to reiterate as well, it's not just about being fearless, it's about having that fear and doing it anyway. I've been through incredible tragedies throughout life, and I just wanted to say that that cannot stop us from continuing.
All
That's
right.
it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can we get a question?
Hi, my name is Kiwoba. I am CEO of Girl STEM Starts, advancing Black girls in STEM education, and Aisha is my mentor. And I wouldn't be here doing my passion if it wasn't for her. And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to meet her when she was at NASA, and she participated in a STEM program that I was doing, and I was through Rocket Fuel where I work, that's my paycheck, we were able to sponsor the STEM camp. So I'd love to hear more about this. I think everybody needs to hear about the STEM camps that you're doing. Love to hear more.
Sure, I'll keep it short. So we've been teaching cybersecurity at Fayetteville State University, which is the only HBCU with the Center for Defense and Homeland Security for the last 2 years. We are now scaling our STEM programs nationally. Kiwoba was part of our Caribbean program because my family is from the Bahamas. And so I host the largest free STEM camp in the Caribbean with over 100 kids that receive engineering education for 6 days at no cost for the last 3 years. But moving into 2016, as I alluded to, because we build hardware and software, we've built hardware products for inroads. And so we will be rolling out hardware to all inroad students in 5 cities, so Chicago, Hanover, Atlanta, DC, and Cincinnati for their hackathons and their College Links programs.
Awesome, that's awesome.
Hi, Dr. Green. My name is Antoine Davis, and I'm here with Spendify. We're a digital platform that makes it easy for consumers to discover amazing black businesses like you all in this room in their city. And we're based in Atlanta, Georgia. And so we're going to make a contribution to what you're doing, but we want to go a step beyond that. What we want to know is, can we rebrand your website and also come alongside you and help you market what you're doing? Because we believe you got a story to
Let's connect. Yes. Okay.
All right, I think we have time for, I thought only 3, but I think we have time for maybe one more,
Questions? All right.
possibly 2 more, depending on what they are. Any questions?
Question?
And did I mention that all donations are tax deductible?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You did. You did. It is a nonprofit, yes.
So I'm also a female in tech. I work for electronic arts, and I'll be speaking a little bit later on. But quick question around banding together, a theme of banding together. When you are the only woman in the room, you are the only woman executive in the room, one of the suggestions given to me, and I'd love to hear your own opinions and thoughts around it, is reaching out beyond your company and beyond what you do in your industry and banding with other women for the good of some other principle. And so what are your thoughts around, let's just pick one thing, one social issue, or one, like, you know, Kaepernick picked one issue and he said, I'm gonna ban sports around that. As black women, let's pick one thing and band each other around that and see the impact that we could have. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're only contained to your organization, you've missed the message that I've said on networking and networking and networking, but networking with a purpose, right? Because you could sit here and go to all these events and spend 24/7, right? The idea is to really figure out how you can create allies with people that share common interests, but really do step out. Because one day you're going to be at a company for 10 years and you're going to look up and you're like, who moved my cheese? Like you were displaced and you didn't spend the time to understand what was happening, who you could connect with. So I absolutely wholeheartedly agree that you need to find people not only in your company, but outside of, within Silicon Valley, globally, and I can't say enough about that.
In industries, so I think that's very...
In different industries,
Yeah, I
too.
think that's incredibly important, right? I mean, yes, we build hardware and software, right? And that's kind of what I do, but I have to reach across communications, I have to be relevant in entertainment, we have to be relevant across all these different market verticals, and life is multidisciplinary. So the best thing you can do for yourself is find people who are those experts in fashion and branding and tech and whatnot, and make them part of your personal board.
Yep.
And the other thing that I would add to that would be, like, for scientists, there's a National Society of Black Physicists, for example, or National Society of Black Engineers.
Woo.
And I think that's a great place to go and find camaraderie, where you can get built back up when you're facing these everyday challenges, in a place where people are nice to you. And I think that matters. And I will say, this is a specific thing for me. I intentionally chose to do my work at Morehouse School of Medicine instead of taking some of the other offers that I had at majority institutions, because I think that it's important first to support our HBCUs with our intellectual power. And I also think that it's important to say, I like being in an environment where people smile at me and say good morning. And I think that there is a place for us at our HBCUs to partner and to have a sense of belonging. And we don't always have to put ourselves in these hostile environments. We can create our own businesses and create our own reality. And we can be independent, not just thought leaders in the branch of diversity in the company, but we can start our own companies. And I think that that's important to get that sense of empowerment.
We have, do you have a mic?
I don't need a mic. My name is Taylor Asanya. I've been actually working on trying to provide a platform for people like us to be able to band together. So to address that question back there, one of the things that you all can do is join us as we launch our Bay Area Urban League Young Professionals Network. That'll be started here in the Bay Area and primarily in Oakland. That's going to be an opportunity for people from 21 to 40 to be able to join and do some of those things. So just wanted to give you guys that opportunity.
All right, thank you. And we've kind of run out of time, but I have one thing. So I think to be successful, one of the most important things you can do is read. You must read. So what is a book for each of you that changed your life?
The Alchemist.
The
Oh,
Alchemist.
that's a good one.
Okay. And you? I'm sorry, I put you on the
I
spot.
honestly would say old school, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People is like
yes,
a must.
yes, that
you
is a
need
must.
that if you're going to
Yes.
navigate corporate America.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say a book that's really relevant for me anyway is a book by Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, called The Startup of You. It's your life being always in permanent beta, always reinventing yourself. And so it's one of the things I always tell folks who want to figure out how to stay in the game. That's one of them.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ladies.